Parents of small children hate him. Learn this pedophile's one easy trick. Okay, so things haven't gone that far yet, but there's definitely something going on with certain outlets testing the waters when it comes to pedo articles. Now don't get me wrong, there's loads of discussion to be had regarding how to deal with the issue of pedophilia, but there's always something horribly off about the articles I've read and interviews I've watched. Like, there's an attempt to generate empathy for pedophiles, but a certain creepiness shines through every time. Recently, I watched a mini documentary type thing about Todd Nickerson, the guy who wrote the "I'm a pedophile but not a monster" articles for Salon.com. I was reminded of when Louis Theroux looked into the KKK. Some are worried giving people like them a platform will make them look nice or appealing, but even when they're treated politely and not drilled into too hard, their true colours shine through. Same sort of thing happened in this Barcroft TV video I watched here on YouTube. They seem to have given him the space and freedom to say what he wants, to present himself as he wishes, and he goes ahead and says this shit.
A lot of my fantasies actually revolve around kids who are more powerful than I am. Is, you know, this idea of super-powered kids, you know, who are able to consent, you know, because they're just super smart.
The Adventures of Consent Man and his gorilla sidekick, Statutory Ape. It's like a setup on one of those tacky crime shows. First, the detectives are disturbed by him, but accept that there's nothing illegal going on. Then they find the bodies and realize he was using comics to lure children into a fantasy where their superpower is fucking nasty dudes. I try to be open to the idea of pragmatically managing pedophiles, of setting up programs like they have in Germany to get them to seek help with the goal of preventing harm to children. It makes sense to me. But god damn, do these creepy motherfuckers make it hard to support. Forget fear-mongering and pedo panic. Listening to one of them who has a platform has to be the quickest way to get people searching for a shotgun. Do you know what the politically correct name for a pedophile is? MAP. That's Minor Attracted Person. How did I learn that? Well, there's a channel here on YouTube called Antipedophobia Action. They used to have quite a few videos, but they have all been deleted, so instead I'll show you their Twitter account. The banner in particular is really something. The anti-fascist logo is interesting too. It's all put together in such a childlike way that just makes my skin crawl. And I think Google Plus perfectly summarizes my opinion on this dude's work. Speaking of Google Plus, it seems supporters of the LGBTP movement in the Heart Progress group didn't like one of the videos on this topic I made in the past. Thanks go to the guy on Twitter who pointed this out to me. It seems like a lot, if not all of the guys in there are fakes. Their comments are just too perfect. And so are their bios. Look at this one on Twitter. Born on April 1st. Come on. And here's a message one of them left me a week ago. Your argument is heavily adherent to the slippery slope fallacy, but that's not what I'm here to condemn. Pedosexuals cannot help who they're attracted to, yet are the most discriminated group in society. Despite many studies showing that even active pedosexuals are not as harmful as society claims, our bigoted society still treats them worse than murderers. Perhaps you need to be more tolerant and educate yourself. There's perhaps the biggest red flag so far that this is a troll. Read the peer-reviewed Archives of Sexual Behavior for starters. If I remember correctly, my overall point in the video was that pedophiles are likely to start co-opting LGBT acceptance rhetoric more and more, considering the start they've made. And this guy's essentially doing just that in the comment section. Like I said, a bit too perfect. Regardless of them being real or not though, they are probably going to draw some real pedos and supporters in. Whether that's to expose them or just to cause cultural havoc, I don't know. One last thing I want to share on this topic is a recent article on Cracked called 5 Things I Learned from Being Addicted to Child Porn. For some reason, the author's anonymous. Now, the obvious reason would be that they don't want to be identified. Who could blame them? But I could also imagine this being fabricated to draw clicks, because it seems to have worked. I clicked it, hundreds of thousands of others have. Now, the title's a bit off, but that's not the only thing messed up about this listicle. Let me just take one example. Number 5. Ironically, interest in child porn often starts as a child. Interesting little factorini there. It almost suggests a sense of innocence in some people going down that path. The writer then goes on to explain that as a child they were groomed by pedophiles who sent them child pornography in an online chat room. Fucking hell. With that subtitle, I expected them to say they were looking for images of kids their own age to compare to themselves, or something along those lines. Was the main lesson they learned from being preyed upon by pedos really that, ironically, interest in child porn often starts as a child? Because to me, that's not the key info there. Something's really off. I mean, in addition to the child pornography addiction. Okay, that's enough darkness for today. Let's move on to something lighter. A meme that I believe deserves proper recognition. Here's a screen cap of it. The gentleman who created the meme said, "Fuck, I forgot the retarded eyes. Use this meme wisely, for it has great triggering power." This image is meant to upset members and supporters of the SNP, the Scottish National Party. Its creator explicitly says it's meant to piss people off. Kevin Stewart is an SNP member of the Scottish Parliament. He is also incredibly proficient at swallowing bait. Look at this! The guy screen capped the meme and statement that it's meant to trigger him, and proceeded to post it and announce his triggering to the world. "This disturbing meme has got to be one of the most horrid things I have ever seen. How many phobic traits can one person have?" The only reason I'm not laughing right now is because I've already laughed so much at it. How can someone be so oblivious? Being old or out of the loop isn't an excuse here. He didn't just see the picture on its own. The guy sees someone say, "I made this to upset you," and responds immediately with how much that person's desire to upset him upsets him. I think this is the dumbest thing I have ever seen on social media. Because on top of that, there's the whole, "this picture is vile, let me share it" aspect. Well done, mate. You've also shown that there's more than a grain of truth to the mockery of your party. And this guy being an MSP, I think, gives us great insight into why a guy can get arrested in Scotland for winding his girlfriend up by teaching her cute little dog to do Nazi salutes. Remember that? If you don't, then yeah, that happened last year. Alrighty then, one last thing. At the time of writing this, because this is one of the ones I'm writing, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Anyway, at the time of writing this, it looks like gender pay gap is trending on Twitter. It also sort of looks like it's a rigged topic. What I mean is, looking at the hashtag right now and sorting by top tweets, the number one is from an official Twitter account, as in Moments UK is part of Twitter, Moments is a feature on the site. And then the rest of the top few tweets are critical of the pay gap idea, with far better interaction than Twitter's own tweet, which I presume is what the ranking is based on. Now, maybe my top tweets are also sorted depending on my activity. It might prefer people who say things similar to me or something incredibly annoying like that. But regardless, Twitter's tweet prevails above all else and privileges a certain perspective on the site. Not a fan. Wouldn't be a fan if their tweet was about the pay gap being deliberately misrepresented and turned into propaganda either, to be clear. With so many accusations of bias, you'd think Twitter'd be trying to work on their appearance and look more like a neutral discussion platform, particularly when it comes to spicy topics. Guess not, though. Oh well, maybe someday women will be smart or hardworking enough to deserve as much money as men. Until then, there's always marriage. That's all for today. As usual, make sure to follow me on whatever other stuff you use if you want to do that. I've finally sorted that all out and put links in the description. Also, click the little bell next to the subscription button to make sure you get my videos if you so wish. And maybe drop a comment here if you want to help rig the machine in my favor. Eventually, this little ending section I've started doing where I tell you about the other things you can click, it's just going to become the whole video, and I'm going to change the series name to Harmful Whoring. I'm going to end up on the street rattling a cup of coins with a cardboard sign that says Willow Pine for cash. Anyway, until next time, that is just another one of my harmful opinions.